Just read it.
Good afternoon and welcome to Matchday Live. I'm Natalie Pike and I'm joined in the studio by three illustrious guests ahead of tonight's Champions League game against Copenhagen. Now, if I tell you that one of these three men have previously scored against Copenhagen, and that took place in the UEFA Cup in 2008-2009 in a last 32 first leg game, would you guess it was prolific goalscorer Shaun Wright-Phillips, esteemed attacker Shaun Wright-Phillips, or the defender Nedum Onuoha? Yes, you guessed it right. Nedum
Oh, it was me. It was me. Yeah, of course it was me.
You scored against Copenhagen.
I'm as inevitable as Erling Haaland. Let's just put that out there.
At what?
At scoring goals in Europe. That's who I am.
Is your technique the same?
Well, it goes in the goal, so at the end of the day,
I've heard it's a brilliant technique.
No, it's fantastic technique for the goals, the turn of pace, the movement. It's just another iconic goal for Man City.
Just another iconic goal, and you can tell it's going to be a fun night already with these three in the studio with me. Now, we do have the all-important team news for you. I know there's been a lot of discussions this week. Will there be rotation? Well, let's have a look, because here is City's starting 11 for tonight's game. Now, I can tell you that there is three changes from the team that convincingly beat Copenhagen 5-0 last week. So the starting 11 is Ederson, Cancelo, Akanji, Laporte, Gomez, Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, who's of course captain, Grealish, Alvarez and Mahrez. So that is your starting 11 this evening for City. Now, your subs are Ortega, Carson, Diaz, Ake, Haaland, Silva, Foden, Palmer, Lewis and Wilson Esbrand. So that is your subs bench for today's game against Copenhagen. So it is a 5:45 p.m. UK time kickoff in today's Champions League game, the fourth game in our group stage this year. Of course, City have won the first three games pretty convincingly all round. It's pretty good start to this year's campaign, but of course we know that if we win tonight, we will qualify for the knockout stages at the first possible opportunity. So, first of all, Nedum, what do you make of the team? So for the first time, we see Erling Haaland is on the bench.
Yes, for the first time. And I think we kind of get it. You know, he's played a lot of football. Obviously, you want to see him out there scoring goals, but you know, this is why you have a squad. You know, you give someone else an opportunity to step up and, you know, do the job that's required. And I think in the team that he's picked, he definitely trusts them to win the game. And I think rightly so, because Alvarez, they didn't sign him for him to just sit on the sidelines for the next 4 years, did he? So I'm interested to see how he plays. Seen some familiar faces in there. And for Copenhagen, they're probably demoralised because maybe they saw Haaland wasn't playing, but then they saw the rest of the team and said, I'll tell you what, this feels like deja vu.
I know, because you see Haaland on the bench and maybe you get a snippet of hope, like you say, but then when you find out that Kevin De Bruyne is playing, who didn't play last week, then...
And then to make it worse, at some point in the game, however it's going for them, you'll see the big fella just walk to the sideline to probably come on for 20 minutes. So just when you think, I'll tell you what, I've done a good job here comes Mr. Inevitable.
What do you make of that choice of starting 11 for this evening's game?
It's still a strong team. The midfield is Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne. Bermuda Triangle, them boys are going to get lost all in there. that midfield, and also you're just picking up on Nedum, Alvarez up top. Looking forward to seeing him. And Grealish has been on really good form, so pleased that he's in the team again and can continue their form. So, but that midfield, the boys could get lost in that midfield. That's just quality in there.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see Grealish in the team again. I thought he was brilliant for last week's game against Copenhagen. I don't know if you saw his post-match interview, Shaun. He just had a massive smile on his face. Looked like he was just really enjoying the game. But he's been in some great form lately.
Yeah, he has. I think I'd say possibly since the Wolves game, for me, he's got better and better. And you can see that in his game. I think he's smiling through it. Even when he's missed chances, you see him have a smile on his face, like if to say, can't believe I just missed that, or am I going to get any luck on the other side of it? And the more he gets in those chances and the more he keeps firing those shots away or keep firing the ball in the box, the more likely it is he will get assists and the goals, because the coin will drop at some point where he does go on that little run of goals, and hope it comes for him soon, because he's worked hard and he's dealt with a lot away from the game as per stick from people that have been giving him, and he's handled it perfectly well, and he's showing that now in his performances.
He really is. After he has taken a lot of stick after his move, of course, last summer. He's been coming more and more into himself, I feel like. And then we saw this from him last week when we played Copenhagen. He had the run there pretty much from our half all the way up. And I really just feels like, Nedum, that he's coming into his own and that we're starting to see the Jack Grealish that we all know is there.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can see him sort of like feel as confident as you saw when he was at Aston Villa. And I think that goes a long way, especially when you look and see the players around him at City. For him to have that belief that this is how good he is, it shows that he is making progress. You know, players are looking for him to try and be dynamic. Like this run he went on was such a big moment within this game, because it's why it broke the spirit of the two people chasing him. And you don't want that when you're tired. You don't want people just taking the ball and really taking it at you. So, you know, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he feels confident in this moment, and he's just got to just keep performing. And before you know it, you know, some of the rotation might happen, but in the end, when the biggest games arrive, you know, he'll be a part of them.
I love that, looking back at that goal as well and seeing the impact of Riyad Mahrez as well. So he hasn't been playing as much as he has done in previous seasons, Shaun. But again, in this, Mr. Champions League, I always like to call him, he steps up and provides. Yes,
he does. I mean, he's just quality. That, you know, every time I watch him, I'm always thinking that he sort of plays on a different rhythm to everybody else's, but he's so smooth. You look and you think, on the eye, you think it could be easy to defend him, but how he drops his shoulder on players, and it looks like it's slower, but defenders can't read it. He drops his shoulder, you know he wants to come onto his left, and when they overcompensate, he cuts it back on his right. For me, he's a wonderful player to watch because his technique. I actually like watching him receive balls because his touch is ridiculous. No matter how he's receiving balls, only half volley, only full, defenders are, you know, three yards from him. His touch is immaculate, and it just allows him to just make him go, if you keep running too fast, I'm going to just slide across you. You know, his ability to control the ball, there we're seeing his technique that he has. But, you know, this is a volley here, dribbling control. He's a wonderful player watching him. He really is.
I love the fact that he's responded as well. So in his press conference a few games ago, Pep had been asked about him and had sort of highlighted that we need him back to his best and that he wasn't performing at the levels perhaps that he had been. And he's responded since that, Shaun.
He also responded after a game. I can't remember what game it was, and I remember him actually coming out and saying, I haven't been at my best himself. And I think that is like the first step in a player, to know that you're not at your best, to then be able to go on and change it. And I think the chances have come, and he has got better and better as the games go on. And it's one thing that people have to understand in football, is that you're not always going to be at your best. The challenge is getting you back to your best, and he seems to have found a way to do it.
And another man I want to do, they're seeing that penalty there. He's very good at penalties, is our Riyad Nedum.
He's very, very good. Like I've said this before, the two types of people that play football, they're the ones who are scared of missing, the ones who are excited about scoring. And he's definitely excited about scoring every time there's a penalty kick available.
Which type were you, Shaun?
Well, I just step up for the pens.
Just say less. Say no more. Told you. The two types of people. And
I consider a lie and say I was first on it.
Yeah, I actually took one. It didn't go well, but I wasn't scared of
missing. So you're reluctant penalty taker, see? Told you.
But no, it's not reluctant. The difference is I'm not scared to take them.
No, so scared to miss.
Yeah, I don't mind missing.
Yeah, so
interesting.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah. It's not nice when you miss. Of course, it's not nice because the responsibility is you feel like you've let your team down. But yeah. if they ask who wants to take a penalty, I'll put my hand
but you're
up.
talking penalty shootouts with someone like Mahrez. You see it like when a penalty is given, the two groups of people, honestly, some people are fighting for the ball and some people are just looking up in the stands like,
in my teams that I played in, I'm not going to go and argue with Anelka or Goals or Didier Drogba.
I did want to get the penalty shootout. I did step up. I said yes.
But that's through necessity, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, I weren't one of them. Who's taking pens?
Were you one of them?
Yeah, listen, you find any footage of any of my teams having a penalty being taken, I will not be in any frame, whether it's the full tactical layout, probably just nip to the toilet for a minute and say, hey, this is not for me.
It's the longest walk ever, but even in my, I shouldn't say my time, because I ain't actually that old.
You are though.
But
you are though.
When I was growing up playing, penalty takers were always strikers. Like, it was always something for them to add to that goal tally and be in the race for golden boot if they was up there. So midfielders, in a way, stayed away from it unless you had the titles of, like, your Beckhams and your stuff like that. It was all strikers that took them.
Yeah, I see that.
Well, I'm very happy when our Riyad Mahrez steps up to take them because he's got a phenomenal record in taking penalties now. So I feel very confident when he steps up. Another man I feel very confident when he's on the ball ever is Joao Cancelo.
Yes.
So, some sensational stats. So he starts tonight, 4 assists in the Champions League this season.
This season?
This season. 3 games, 4 assists from him. He's got 92% pass completion rate in the competition.
Okay.
Obviously, he was phenomenal at weekend against Southampton because I'd taken him out of my fantasy team. 18 points
you got what you
scored.
deserved. You got what you deserved. Yeah.
I did.
Who did you put him in for? Who did you put in for?
I wanted to free up the money so I could get Harry Kane.
So who did you bring in?
Harry Kane.
Just Harry Kane. Who was at the back? Replaced him?
Oh, who replaced him? Oh, I went to 3 at the back.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Is that okay?
No, that's fine. You had a great weekend, didn't you? So.
I had a shocking weekend. But he's having a phenomenal run of games.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's so confident, in terms of going forward. Defensively, he still does a very good job as well. But, like Raheem Sterling was number 7 for City. But then you're seeing Cancelo, and he's up doing the same things that Raheem was doing. Like, it's ridiculous. He's without a doubt one of the best attacking fullbacks in all of world football. And when you mentioned the stat before about pass completion, 92%, like that would be okay, and you'd disregard it if he was passing it 5 yards. Like he's doing everything outside of the foot, inside of the foot, short, long, breaking the lines. Like he's without a doubt one of the best doing it.
You hit it on the head. I'm sitting there thinking 92%. Listen, my best game, I ain't getting no 92%.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some serious numbers,
Yes.
Pass completion.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and this guy's taking on players playing fullback, taking on players like a winger. That's ridiculous numbers. Like this, that's consistency. That's quality. It really is.
I honestly, I've got to the point now when he does something on the pitch. So I did something with Nedum the other day, and we watched him, and we both just sat there and just started laughing. We just said, only he would do that. Like nobody else would think about it, and that's where I think he wins over a lot of defenders in that position, because he gets himself into positions where all defenders, every other defender will panic. Yeah, not him. He finds a way to either nutmeg you or send you the wrong way and then play a 2-yard pass and just carry his run on. And at the other end, we've seen it. He's always been deadly, whether it comes to goal scoring or creating.
Looking at that back four for tonight's game, how are you expecting them to line up? And I mean in terms of Cancelo obviously pushes forward a lot. In the Southampton game, we were essentially playing 3 at the back for a lot of it, with Cancelo playing so pushed up into the midfield. Yeah. But with Gomez playing in that left-back position today, or that is perhaps what we're guessing, what are you expecting to see?
I think guessing is right, even though it feels like it makes sense. I think guessing is exactly right. And Cancelo will go forward, but to be honest, so will Gomez. So in some ways, it wouldn't be surprised if maybe, and I stress maybe, they go for more of a block, say with the 2 centre-backs, and you're looking at Gundogan and Rodri, maybe. But I think the fact is that they're so skilled and so well-trained that they can do that 1 minute, and then the next minute the 2 full-backs are high, then the next minute Gomez is coming inside, being the second pivot, and then Cancelo's up, Mahrez offering the whip. So basically, they've got all the ingredients to create a masterpiece as many times as they want across 90 minutes.
I like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm sitting there thinking in regards to Gomez. Gomez, it shows you that he has technique, because it was one of the games where it was a set piece, and we basically crossed it to him on the edge of the box. And normally that sort of set piece goes to someone like Mahrez, but they have the trust and belief that he's that good, that he's the one to be volleying that ball in. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays in terms of does he sort of venture forward and inside as well. Cancelo does a bit of that, where he ends up in the 10 pocket, having shots and giving through balls, or is he one that plays a little bit level with Rodri, and Cancelo is the one that's pushing up? So it'll be interesting to see.
I don't think he will do that. I'm thinking more that if Cancelo does venture forward, as we know he's going to do, I think the midfield will push higher, and I think Gomez may tuck more inside, closer to Rodri, just to prevent the counter-attack, because we're away from home. And I think Copenhagen know at some point they have to go for it today, otherwise that time's over. Yeah. So it's going to be, I feel like it will definitely be, it should be an open game, but you never.
Well, like, don't get me wrong, I think Copenhagen will be better than they were last week, because they've got people turning up to see them this time. You know what I mean? Like, there's a different sort of pressure in terms of playing at home and knowing that if they want to stay in the competition, they have to get some results. But I think for City, the beauty of the squad that they have and the team that they have is that they're not one-dimensional. So we can say it's a 4-3-3, but at some point it transforms to the next thing and transforms to the next thing. And it's what's ever needed to sort of get the better of a side in any particular moment. And that's such a joy to watch.
Oh, it's certainly a joy
Cheat
to watch,
code.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Gents, thank you very much. So, as always, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can use the WhatsApp number that is going to be on your screen any second. Send in your questions for the guests, ask them about tactics, ask them about their careers, ask them anything you want. This is your show. Ask them what you want to know. So get those WhatsApp questions in nice and early. I'll get through as many as I can. And just a nice early reminder as well that you can get full commentary for tonight's game with the wonderful Alistair Mann on the City app. So you need to get that downloaded as well if you haven't done already. Right, let's take a look now at the Copenhagen starting 11 for tonight's game. So for Copenhagen it is Grabara, Koshalova, Gleeson, Leraga, Derami, Jellert, Boylerson, Lund, Haraldson, Christiansen and Stamanik. So that is your starting 11 for Copenhagen for the game tonight. So, gents, in terms of Copenhagen, first of all, the question I want to ask you, Shaun, is knowing you've been beaten 5-0 just a week ago, how are they feeling now? That is the team that's going to line up against us. How are they feeling knowing that, less than a week ago they were convincingly beaten?
I think in their head they're definitely on the wave of let's try not to concede an early goal, but in general they're going to be nervous. I think psychologically, for me already in so many ways, they know they're losing a game. It's just how many. They don't want it to be like what happened at the Etihad, especially in front of their own crowd. So they will give City something completely different, like Nedum said, in questions asked, because they're at home and they've got more people behind them. But even then, if they do that, they could put themselves in a very vulnerable situation with the type of players that City have out there. So they're definitely going to be walking on eggshells, that's for sure.
Now, one of the Copenhagen players that really did shine last week, Shaun, was the goalkeeper, was Grabara. I mean, considering it was 5-0, he still made some phenomenal saves in that game.
Yes, he did. And, he's the one that's probably come away and went, played well. And he'd probably be talking to his defence. I'd rather have very little to save as long as you all play well. But he did. He pulled off some magnificent saves. But, when I look at them and I'm sitting there thinking, if I'm managing them, I don't know the stick or twist, because you want to get your fans off their seats because they're playing City, but you want to try to stay in the competition. If you go open, you get pulled apart. And if they play deep, City's a team that can find their spaces and hurt you as well. So, they got their work cut out for them. But I think initially it's about them trying to play their way into the game. The first, 10, 15 minutes is about not conceding and staying tight. Play their way into the game and then perhaps trying to impose themselves in some way. But it's hard because City have the ball and City keep the ball. It's as simple as that.
Where are they coming from? These bags are massive.
No, it looks like
a lot of luggage.
do you know what? Sometimes some managers have you stay in hotels longer before like Champions League games. So they might have been there like a couple of days or so.
I'm taking that bag away for a week.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's a bit too big for me for a week. My clothes are quite
Shaun.
small, so I can just roll them up anyway.
Nedum, what do you think they can do differently than they did last week?
I think if they were to look back at the last game, they can probably sort of have a better idea of when to press, when not to press, when to apply pressure, and sort of realise why at times they played into City's hands. I think sometimes, I think we said on the show last week, myself and Shaun, that, at times they had bodies there, but they were passive. And you can't really afford to do that when you play against a side like Man City. Like, you have to be active the whole time. And as I say, they're going to get a slightly different look this time because Alvarez is very different to Haaland. They both played the position well, but it's different. And I don't think Mahrez started last game. He started that game as well, didn't he? So, it's a different look now with Kevin De Bruyne in there, So they're going to have to figure out, what plays into City's hands and what can they do to put City under pressure, whether it's a case of more long throw-ins, maybe just putting the ball in the box from every possible free kick. To go back to, teams who never really played in the Champions League, how hard was it playing at the Reebok when every time the ball's on the ground from a free kick or whatever, you're going to have to face balls coming into the box. It makes City and other teams do something which they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. So maybe there'll be an emphasis with that. But then they're still very much overmatched. And the joyous thing about being in this studio, watching City and covering City, is if they play well, they'll overcome it regardless. So I think that's going to be the big thing for City, maintaining their standards and seeing what Copenhagen do, but then still making sure that they do what they do and dominate the game.
In terms of them being at home, Shaun, does that give them any more reason to have some confidence going into this game?
Yes, but City's a team that
this is the respectful five.
Yeah, but he did say that confidently.
Yeah. Wait, you remember this is Mr. Respectful Five last week for the score prediction.
Is that what he said?
He said respectfully five. Yeah.
Five.
Yes, respectfully 5-0. Yeah.
They should have confidence, but City's a team that play like they're home, so it's a difficult one for them. They will want to have a good tempo about their game. They'll want to get amongst City, get stuck into them when they have the time and the occasions. But City is so good at keeping the ball and drawing them out, and if they have a low block, of being able to find their spaces. So I agree with Nedum. I think they've got to just try and do things that City are uncomfortable. But that's first getting the ball and then asking a question of them.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that is that they don't have like a target man, like a Haaland that's going to hold the ball up. So all they're going to do if they play direct is just give it
right
back to City, and they're going to go right back at it. So the only way to do that is like to proper play the ball in behind, which is basically just tell your striker as soon as they get the ball, turn and run.
And respectfully, as a defender, it doesn't matter how good your team is, you don't like running back towards your own goal with somebody chasing you. So maybe that'll be a play. I think that's a very good point.
Now, they played in the league at the weekend, so beaten 5-0 by us, and they went back into their own league and then they had a draw at the weekend. They're down in 6th position, just 16 points from 12 matches, so it does seem that it's not been a great start.
No.
I'm sure they would have liked a convincing league win to have tried to have boosted that confidence ahead of the game.
Yeah, for sure. Winning games is just such a nice feeling for me, it doesn't really matter who it's against, whether it's in the League Cup against a team that's in like the 4th tier or whether it's beating, your biggest rivals at the weekend, like winning matters. And to show how much it matters, you see these two guys here. On a Friday, if they did a shooting session and they did really well, they probably felt on Saturday they were going to go and score a goal. Like, there's a feeling that can be gained from the little things. So I'm sure that will be disappointing for them. But a point which I was going to make earlier was this isn't the second leg of a knockout tie. So even though they lost 5-0 last week, they don't come with that sort of baggage to the point where they believe that the game is done. There'll be just that fraction more belief. And don't get me wrong, it can very quickly disappear when you realise you're just like overfaced with everything. But they'll believe they can win this game. And like we said last week, if they do, it could be the biggest win that some of those players might ever have in their career. So the motivation to go out there and to do it is going to be greater than at any point in their careers today, I'd say.
But on the flip side of it, from our point of view, so they've been struggling in their league. We're on 6 wins in a row in all competitions, undefeated, the only team in the top 4 divisions to remain undefeated, Shaun. So we're going into it imperiously confident as to their kind of probably nervousness.
Yeah, and this is the standard that Pep sets. He wants the boys to continue on, and I think Pep will look at this game, and no matter what changes are made, Pep will be looking and thinking, well, we beat them 5. First, I want to have a great performance, and if that can be 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 or even more, then I want that. But it's about the performance. I think he's looking to make sure that they have a performance. He just drives the team with their standards all the time.
I just think he'll go there with the same attitude. I think it's all good with the standards and what we know Pep brings to the team, but he also knows he's fielded a team now that to win today, because if they win, they've already qualified, which kind of lightens the load on a lot of the players he's got out there. Not that he's not going to put a strong team out against the other teams to come, but at least he can rest certain players and give them their recovery.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much, gents. So that is Copenhagen's team news for this evening. Now, as I mentioned, the best place to get your commentary for the game and to get all Manchester City games is on our official app. We have our wonderful commentator, Alistair Mann. You know how much we all love him. Well, tonight he's alongside Michael Brown. We're going to hear from them now.
OK, cue Alistair. Yeah, thanks, Natalie. I guess the main headline, as I'm sure you've already digested, is the fact that Erling Haaland is not starting, and that, I suppose, is the thing that will be eye-catching, not just for City fans absorbing the team news, but also for the Copenhagen players. Michael Brown is my co-commentator this evening. Michael, Haaland given a breather. One eye on Anfield, would you say?
Well, you've got to say that. It was something that the last few weeks, every supporter, every media outlet were talking, when would he get that rest? And I think a few will be slightly relieved that it's coming before that game at Anfield at the weekend. We do want him playing as many times as possible. The return of goals so far has been incredible, so he will be missed, but we certainly understand that decision.
But of course, opportunity knocks there for Julian Alvarez. How big an opportunity is this?
I think it's a great opportunity for him at the top of the pitch. Obviously, he's been getting different tastes of appearances, coming on several times now, getting in the action. But I think he'll have a lot of support, you would imagine, wouldn't you, with Kevin De Bruyne, whether Rodri will just sit there, with Grealish as well. So it's a good opportunity, but he needs support. We've seen last week it was a slightly different setup, more of a 2 at the top of the pitch against Copenhagen in a very, very convincing win. Not only was it possession, shots at goal, action areas, 87 attacks or something, Ali, that they had against Copenhagen with a couple of changes. So this was a Champions League game that was fully dominated, and obviously the host tonight will be very much aware of that.
Jack Grealish back in the starting lineup, having come on as a sub against Southampton. How well do you think he's now playing?
I think he's playing well. I think he seems to be more confident, getting a goal against Wolves. He then seemed to obviously realise that he can go and run at people. At times we've discussed in commentary, haven't we, Ali, where he thinks, does he come inside, does he go down the line, does he keep running past people? So he seems to be very fit now. He seems to be understanding that role, and it certainly helps when the team are doing so well. That picks everybody up, and it's another big night for him, because he'll be looking at the weekend thinking he wants to be involved at Anfield for sure.
Just a thought on Sergio Gomez starting this evening. What do you feel has been his greatest strengths from what you've seen of him so far?
I think it's another opportunity, isn't it? He probably didn't expect to have as many games this early in his Manchester City career. Obviously starting at left back, drifting into centre midfield roles, and even finishing games in at centre midfield. So just for him to be playing week in, week out with these players, getting minutes, I feel like he's going to get stronger. But he seems really composed so early in his career. You feel like he would have been a little bit nervous going into this side, but he seems to have been very, very comfortable. Now he understands, he's very athletic, when to get forward, when to support. Grealish coming inside, and he can get all the way round, obviously. Get a few more deliveries, getting some more advanced areas. But another sort of different partnering at the back, Akanji and Laporte, with Gomez possibly on the left and Cancelo right. So it's certainly a good back four.
I guess the million-dollar question, do you still feel City will be winners? And if so, will they be comfortable winners again?
You would have to say that, wouldn't you? It's a side in Copenhagen struggling, even at the weekend, not controlling possession enough. Yes, they got a draw, but they've got to improve from where they are if they're going to sort of trouble City. So I would expect City to have a real confident start, real high pressure, controlling possession. So really it should be a routine one, but we obviously understand the supporters that are going to be there, putting that little bit more pressure on. They've made lots of changes. Whether we see a difference in setup, will they put a back three in? And it's not easy to do that when you haven't had many days on the training ground to adapt, and especially when you do it against a Manchester City side. If you're not ready for it, you can be all over the place.
Thoughts there of Michael Brown. Myself and Michael will be bringing you the commentary in around about 50 or so minutes time, so make sure you've downloaded the app. And let's go back to the studio where Natalie is with the two Shauns and Nedum.
Thank you so much to our commentary team for tonight, Alistair Mann and Michael Brown, for their thoughts ahead of tonight's game. Now, our excellent UEFA Youth League campaign continued apace today with a 3-1 win over FC Copenhagen. Barry Murphy's side were outstanding and thoroughly deserved the victory. We were watching some of it before we came. They were really good, some really good goals as well. Takes us one step closer to qualification for the knockout phase for the first time since 2017-18. So we can hear now from Oscar Bob and our manager.
Oscar, a fine win against a very good team. Yeah. What's your assessment of that game?
I think first 10 minutes we came out a bit slow, but we got into the game. I think we were the better team first half, and then obviously getting the goal helped a lot. And then the main thing at half-time was just to start off well, and I think we did. So we got another goal and then got on top. They get a goal back. There were a bit of pressure, but yeah, I think what Carlos does for the third goal helps us just seal the win, and then it was just getting through the last 15-20.
Just so pleased with the way the players performed in, I think, testing arena. I thought, the home support was here in numbers, and just when it looked as if it was going to be comfortable in the second half, Copenhagen came back so strongly and scored. So there was loads of different tests within the game, and to see our guys perform for the whole game like they did was very pleasing.
You must be pleased with the work rate as well, because we know City have got a lot of technical quality, but we showed a lot of fight and battle today whenever we lost the ball, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought our discipline, our defensive structure was very good, and we knew it would be tested in a way here that probably it wouldn't be back home. So to see the players again adapt to that challenge and come through so strong was very satisfying.
Just tell us the differences between playing in kind of the Premier League 2 to playing in the Youth League.
I think, it's definitely a different challenge. I feel like we usually know what's coming in the Premier League 2. We know some of the players, and it's different when you come here because maybe you haven't heard of the players, but they're just as good, some even better. So, it's very exciting.
And what about your own performance today? I mean, you constantly wanted the ball. You were trying to make things happen. Were you pleased with the way that you played?
I think I could do better. I had a couple of good moments, but overall, I think it's average for me. So I'm looking to be better, and fortunately, or hopefully, we'll go through the group, and we've got a long way left.
10 points now from 4 games. We're one step closer to qualification. I mean, how do you see this group panning out from this point onwards?
I think it'll be competitive. I think our next game in Dortmund will be an extreme examination of how good we are and how we can back up this performance, really. I thought the performance we asked for today it showed a lot of things that we want from the players, like you said. I suppose that courage and that resilience to overcome whatever's thrown at them, and we need that the next day in Dortmund. And if we get that, then we have a great chance of progressing.
So that's Brian, Barry Murphy and Oscar Bob speaking after our 3-1 win today in the UEFA Youth League campaign. Gents, would you have liked to have played in the Youth League, the UEFA Youth League, the opportunity to travel abroad?
Yes, absolutely. Easiest question I've ever faced. 1,000%.
Why is that, Nedum?
Well, from my time in the academy, like under 17s and the only time we really even got exotic at all with the games was the first 2 games of the season. You'd play a team down south, that's it. Then for the rest of the time, you're at Blackburn's and Boltons. So yeah, would I like to play against Copenhagen? Yes. Would I like to go and play against Dortmund? Yes, absolutely. We had some good tournaments like the Milk Cup, Foil Cup, stuff like that. But to be able to play in something which is like a Youth Champions League feels special. And they'll be looked after. They're travelling around, to get a chance to see some of these great stadiums. And they'll be watching City just later as well. So yes, 100% yes.
So Shaun, I think that was a yes from Nedum. How about you?
He's answered it for me.
It's the easiest question in the world. Yes, absolutely.
Right, well, that was the easiest question in the world for Nedum. So let's hope you have all asked more difficult questions than I do, because I like to tax our guests. So I'm going to have a look now at some of your wonderful WhatsApp questions that you've been sending in this evening. So thank you, as always, for sending them in. So Ollie is asking, how will Haaland starting the game on the bench impact the overall gameplay of the squad, Shaun?
That's a good question, that.
How will he affect it? Listen, he could come on, him coming on or not coming on still affects it, because, again, as players, defenders, they're always thinking, if they're doing a good job, they'll be thinking, is he warming up? Is he going to come on? And their mind just slightly, thinking about him, who's not on the pitch, all of a sudden, we're finding spaces and gaps. So I'd like to see him still get on for 15 minutes. So, we call it an active rest is what I like to see, because I think he's very capable of coming on for 15 minutes, and that's after Alvarez has scored a couple goals, or scored a goal, and so be pleased with his work. That doesn't mean that Alvarez comes off though. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it'll be good to see him get on 15 minutes, because I think I just love the fact that he plays minutes and he scores goals, and this is a proper machine. It really is a goal machine.
Shaun, how do you think it will impact the squad with him having you on the bench tonight?
I don't think it will. I think we've seen him over the last 2 years play without a striker, and I think Alvarez, although he does play that number 9 role and get in the box as much as I would say Haaland, he might not pick up the same areas, but he still gets in the box. I think that City will just play the same way. I just feel like he will be more involved in the game because he likes to come short, he likes to get turned, he likes to play people in, and as we know, he runs around and works just as hard as Tevez used to almost, and so I think he'll be fine. I don't think nothing much will really change.
Great question, Ollie. Thank you for that. Right, Blair has said, what's your thoughts on Wilson Esbrand, Palmer and Lewis? So for ages we wanted Pep to bring youth through, and now it seems that he's doing that. Nedum?
Yeah, I think it's always nice to see the young players coming through. And as well, they're coming through and they're playing in the Champions League. It's great, and they're coming in and playing in the Champions League, and they're doing well. It's perfect. It just goes to show that the sort of development they've had to this point has been great, and then the integration with the first team has been great, and the fact that they know what their jobs are, like, that's invaluable. And these are the people you want to be able to rely on them. Like, they're not first choice, but to know that even in a crisis you can bring on somebody like that who's got such an incredible, like, they've got incredible futures ahead of them. And they might be at City, they might be elsewhere, but to know that they're good enough to be playing for Manchester City in the Champions League, you know, to put it into perspective, there's a difference between playing for City in the Champions League and playing for Copenhagen in the Champions League as a young player. You know, the expectation's different. City are like a front-running team. They're a team that dominate possession. They're a team that don't really show up any weaknesses. So as you step on the field, you have to be perfect. And Pep's trusting those three players because he knows that they can be perfect for this team. So it's, yeah, I'm delighted that they're doing it. Love to see them have more games. But, you know, if anyone ever worries about academy graduates and stuff, just remember Phil Foden.
Yes, always. Now, Shaun, you, of course, currently work in the academy, so I'd love your take on these three and also youth players coming through.
Well, the funny thing is I'm not around that age group, so I don't get to see them too often because they have the 23s and the first team. So, but in regards to Palmer's someone that excites me because I've seen, you know, he's always exciting because he affects the game. He reminds me a lot of Foden in terms of his ability on the ball, but he affects games in terms of scoring goals or wanting to score goals. And every time he's come in, again, he doesn't look out of place at all. He's really calm on the ball, shows composure, and affects the game with goals and assists. So I really like what I see with him. We've got so many young kids coming through because I mean, last year I spent time even with like the under-13s and the talent of these kids. They're doing things, and I just thought, they're just unbelievable. But it's also really, you know, it's great quality coaching, you know, teaching them the City way. Currently with the 16s, they just came back from a tournament, having won. So they're ticking along very nicely, you know, in terms of, it's always good to, from City's point of view, that the kids are winning tournaments. You can't win every tournament, but every now and again, it's good that a group can go away in a tournament and win because it gives them belief in terms of what the coaches are asking. And I'm really enjoying it because I'm also learning a lot. So some great new players coming through.
I loved at the end of last season where we saw how many of our different age groups had won variety of trophies. I just loved it. Shaun, you of course came through the academy as well. When you were coming through, was there any players in the first team that you looked up to and that mentored you back, and how did that affect your career?
I think when it all happened, because it happened pretty quickly for me, I think, because it took me a while to even get to under-19s, because obviously everyone was still a lot smaller than everybody else. Not that I've grown much now.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's definitely not grown at all.
I haven't grown much now, but
don't get something like that.
I was still quite small back then. So like people at Dixon Etu and Restay and that were always moved across with the 19s, and then I think it's like 9 months towards the end of the season I got my chance, and then I kind of just played a couple of times in the reserve team, and then I was just with these guys. And I always remember like Goetz and Dickov just saying to me like, just go and enjoy yourself. We've seen you, we know what you can do. And that kind of just made me feel at home, because that's pretty much what I was doing with the 17s and then the 19s. So to come here and get that same sort of advice, and then along the way teach me little things. And then as soon as Ali Benarbia and Al Berkovic came in, they added like another string to it where they're saying you don't always have to dribble. Run without the ball. You don't need to call. We will see you.
Sorry.
And it was just like as easy as that. And it was just, and then you just carry on rolling. I think the hardest part was just the consistency level. Like to keep playing consistently at that and trying to keep entertain everybody as well, because we're entertainers at the end of the day, do you know what I mean? We're there to entertain the fans, to keep them on the edge of their seat. That is sometimes mentally hard, especially when you're tired. But then when you hear the crowd go up, then for some reason you just get like another burst of energy and
As
you
the
just
crowd
go.
did when you used to get the ball. There was definitely a sense of anticipation when you would get onto the ball. And I guess in terms of you coming through in mentorship, your story is probably a little bit different, obviously, because your dad was so good, and now obviously your son is a professional footballer as well. So have you felt that in your family, that kind of support and mentoring and
No, we just kind of leave ourselves to our own devices, because I was just always a great believer, especially Dad didn't teach me and Bradley taught ourselves. Same thing with my son, and now the same thing with my 8-year-old daughter. I just feel like if you love something that much, you're naturally going to learn to try and be it or do it at the best of your ability. Now, if they ask me questions, then I will answer them and try and guide them in the same way. But at the same time, I would only guide them in the way I would do it. They might not play like that as a person, so I try to just be there more as a dad and answer the questions that I'm answered and let them get coached by the coaches that are teaching them, because their coaches could be telling them, this is how I want you to play. Then I'm telling them something completely different, so I don't want to confuse them either. So I just back them when they need it.
That's a brilliant point, because I think some parents, they you know, this is at young ages. The parents are on one side, coaching staff's on the other side. They're coaching a way of playing, and the parents saying, go inside now, stay out wide now, drop deep now. and the coach is on the other side thinking, why is he there? He shouldn't be there. He should be in that position. And that's a parent that understands, because he's played the game to know, like, not to interfere. And when the kid comes and asks questions, then he can give it. But some try to be coaches during the game.
And I think as well, there's a very, very thin line between good mentoring and bad mentoring, because, you know, if you're mentoring, inevitably you're a bit older than the person who you're going to be giving advice to. But there are some people who are older who believe that the way they did it then is how it should be done now. But the world and the game's changing all the time. So the way that you believe something should be might be the worst thing possible for that particular person. So I think in terms of someone reaching out and asking for advice, it's far better than saying, well, this is how I did it, this is the way it should be. And, you know, the angle which you missed it, Shaun Wright was the one who I looked up to when I was coming through the academy. Like I said, I was a ball boy for him.
Yeah, I was moving, I was going round and I was going to come
my
to you.
fault, I jumped the gun. Sorry, I've killed the lead there, I apologise. But yeah, he was someone that I looked up to. Like, when I said I was ball boying for him at Main Road, like, I was actively, as a 13, 14-year-old, just sitting in there watching him kick balls into the stands. But, you know, obviously I wasn't kicking into the stands, he was scoring goals.
He's like, sure, right,
right. But, like, I'm watching him, and he's on the path which myself and lots of others would like to be on as well. And then one thing which he mentioned, which was to do with Shaun, which was to do with Paul Dickov, like, those two guys welcomed him into the first team. You know, as a young player, you arrive there and most people won't have a voice. They'll be very, very nervous. But if you feel like you belong there because people are welcoming you, then you can perform to your best of your abilities, because you didn't arrive there by accident. You arrived there because someone felt you deserved the chance to be there. So when the environment's right, and someone like Shaun was there helping myself out, so many others, like I hate doing this because I'm giving him a compliment. But
he's squirming as he says it.
I feel physically sick.
I'll bring him back down, don't worry. I
feel physically sick with this, but he is one of the reasons why during that time so many people were able to come through, because not everyone made the debut whilst he was still at City, but he had enough of an impact where for the year before, say 2 years before he left, so many of us were coming through. There was myself, there was like Ishmael Miller, there was Michael Richards, Stevie Islands, all these people who greatly look up to him, because he was the main guy at City at that time. But he liked us and he wanted us to do well. It was him, it was Richard Dunn, it was Sylvain Distin. Like, that was such a blessing. And to make it easier for me again, I played one full season at City while he was still there, at the Waterford first time, at right back, position I was unfamiliar with, and Richard Dunn was to my left. All Dunny said was defend, and all someone has said to Shaun is just give him the ball. So I literally defended, gave Shaun the ball. And then that feeling, that sound which you can hear, you know, that, like you said, everyone gets excited when it's time for people to attack. It's the noise of everyone getting up off their seats, and you hear the clack, clack or whatever of the chair hitting the back of the thing. That's all I heard. Say, off you go, Shaun. And off he went. And lo and behold, we had a great season.
Bringing back some memories of some of your goals when the ball just got to you, Shaun. And I love that. So he inspired you, and we're talking about, it all came from the question about talking about some of the youth players, and I'm guessing now that, you know, Kevin De Bruyne is inspiring them, you know, all the incredible players are inspiring them. So I love that. I love where that went. So big thank you for the question there. And also, by the way, I've seen some videos of your daughter that you showed me. She's brilliant. Do we think she might be the next star of the family?
Okay. Left and right footed. said she's quick.
Nice.
It's like my double. It's my doppelganger.
Is she 6 foot?
No, she's small. Then she'll be really good, I think.
Yeah, the next star in the family coming through. OK, we've got a great question from Mike, who says, even without the Arsenal game, we play 8 games in 29 days this month. Oh, crikey, Mike. 8 games, 29 days. As players, did you enjoy playing many games in a short space of time, or did you feel that it took its toll?
So I think it does take its toll, but I enjoyed it because, like, it's a weird thing, I think, as a player to go to a manager and say you don't want to play. Because, like, why don't you want to play? Because every time you play, it's a chance to do something great. It's a chance to win the game. And from my perspective, like, I get some people might be tired, but ultimately, all those teams that are at the top of the league are playing the same amount of games in this time. So it's not like a hardship story against you. It's a testing part of the season for you. It's why you have the squads. But the worst position, I think, in football is being injured and not being able to play. But for me, the second worst is being on the sideline and knowing that everyone on the field is doing well and you don't know when you'll get back in. You know, so once you have the shirt, I think you just got to try and be out there, maximise it, try and play well, because when you're playing well and you're winning, it's literally the best job in the world.
Well, for me, if you're winning games, it didn't make too much of a difference. But if you were going through a bad, tricky spell, you'd feel the weight. You'll feel a bit tired because you haven't won in 3-4 games, and you're like, oh, we've got 5 more games or 3 more games this month. But when you're winning, you just want the games, and you always got enough energy.
I just loved it. It just felt like there was less training, especially for on both sides of the fence. If you was playing, it was brilliant because all you did was like recovery, light session, which is the enjoyable part before the game, which is like short-sided games, and then you play matches and then you're into the game. But then, even for, I would say, a sub that wasn't playing that much, that was doing all the travelling, training sessions would be longer, but he wouldn't have to do like all the running after it. It's because the games will come in quick and fast, and you never knew what you was needing.
You didn't want to train, that's what I'm getting.
I hate warm-ups. I always have done.
Yeah,
like
same.
that.
I'm with him on that.
I'm not a big fan of warm-ups, especially stretching. I would just normally stand there and talk and have a laugh and a crack with everybody until the ball came out. And as Goaters knows, I was the most miserable boy in pre-season. When it came to running without the ball, I despise pre-season back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, because it's awful.
Just running without a ball for over 45 minutes.
Not many like it.
It was so depressing. And then you got Paul Dickoff just whizzing past you like this.
Like, you're a football team or a track team, that's the thing. That's that first week. It's like, the manager's like, OK, we're going to start off this, we're going to do this. And you're like looking around, where the football's at? Football? Oh, no footballs yet. No footballs yet.
You don't need boots.
Yeah, it's like, okay, here we go.
Honestly, I remember when we was young and we used to do it round, there was like a field not too far from Platt Lane. And we had like Leon Mike. He was great on the pitch, but running was bad. And Frankie Bunn used to always say to us, if Leon doesn't get in at this time, you have to do another lap. Like, no. He's not the easiest man to push forward because he was like a stocky guy. He was a big guy. So he would get in last and we'd just all look at each other and be like,
no.
And Frank goes, all right, you lot ready to go again?
I wasn't as bad as Leon with the long distance runs, but I remember the odd time, like, I used to lose where everybody was running. And I was like, I don't know where they all are. So I just better head back.
You find a shortcut.
But when it came to sprints, though, I was up there.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah.
Do you know Dickie's still the same now? You know, when we went to Madrid last season, me and Paul went across and we went out for a meal in the evening. We had a semi-late night, got up the next morning for my breakfast. He'd already been for a run round the block.
Yeah.
And it was like 8 in the morning and it was in Spain.
Nope.
He loves it.
Nope.
He's a machine still.
Always has been.
He is. He was always that way. He was just always fit. He was always... Yeah, I remember times where, like, the lads would go out and I think, right, I'll get him in this session, just try to get a few brownie points from the gaffer. Dickie would still beat me. He was just fit. He was just a fit lad.
Love that. Oh, thank you so much for sending your questions in. Brilliant questions, as always. I do love it. You always think of stuff that I don't as well, so a big thank you. So we're going to have a move on, have a little bit of a chat now about our league form. Obviously, brilliant performance again at the weekend, beating Southampton 4-0. It almost felt like a fairly... routine, a respectful 4-0. It felt fairly routine.
Yeah, it did feel fairly routine. And it's just, I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of it appearing easy, but then in the same breath, it shows how good they are. You know, teams that they're coming up against who are getting hit for 4 and 5, like they are trying, but City are just so much better at this moment in time, because when you look at the way that they play, in the past you'd have certain people maybe are out of form, but the team's doing well, but it feels like everybody's in form and the team's doing well. So at this point, you can't just focus on like stopping one person. Like for this, someone's thinking, oh, you know, they kind of stopped Haaland, but then they still conceded 4 anyway.
Yeah, but I go back to thinking, because I was watching like some of the clips and I saw something on the Instagram social media, on Man City social media, which I didn't realise, and I actually watched the game. For Haaland's goal, every player on the pitch touched the ball.
Yeah.
For that one goal.
Really?
Literally every player touched the ball. That's how long they had possession for, 21 passes. And they didn't really get anywhere near close to tackling them because they couldn't, because every time they took a step forwards, City just moved the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the form they've been in pretty much since the start of the season.
Yeah.
And when you come up against teams that much confidence...
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And I think it's the mentality, because like I've been saying, and when we talk about Haaland like we did last week, the thing is, if somebody's making something look easy, look at the level of competition and then realise that they're making it look easy because they're exceptional. You know,
Phil just made that finish look easy.
exactly.
I'm sure it wasn't.
Like, this is what I mean. It's exceptional. The way Kevin drives with the ball, the way the pass to Phil, the dink, everything. The spread, the fact that Haaland went to the right, Phil went to the left, like, they make it look really, really easy, but it's because they're exceptional talents, as opposed to what some people might say and say, like, oh, the opposition aren't good. The opposition is good. On any given day, they could make a bigger game of it. But City right now, they're just incredible.
You make a valid point, because we played Southampton. It may have been last season.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've come up with some brilliant performances against us. In one particular game, the first half was one of the best half I've seen from an opposition against us in terms of how they kept the ball and then tried to open us up. And so when we've gone and made that before nil, you know, that just shows you that how good a team we are, because Southampton are no mugs when they've come to play us in recent seasons. So a totally brilliant performance by everybody. And Pep just seems to find a way. You know, he plays against a team that a couple games and they're challenging and making it tough for us, and then, you know, goes put a performance on like that and just say, yeah, we'll deal with that one. And phenomenal. Really.
What I loved about this game as well is that the goals were coming from different people. We've heard obviously a lot about Erling Haaland this season, but I thought this was just a nice reminder, Shaun, that we've got goal scorers all over the pitch.
Yeah, and that's like I said, it still goes back to how many people touched the ball before Haaland's goal. If you look at the Mahrez chance, that was his third attempt at volleying the ball, and he caught that one perfect. And this goal, they kept him quiet all game, hence the reason why 3 other players scored, because they were so busy focused on concentrating on where's Haaland at every given time. It opens up spaces for everyone else, and this finish is way harder than people think it is. Like, it's come back quickly and he's bent it around in between 2 people.
He makes that look easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what, as
it's
well?
It's such a hard finish.
Like, he's free in the box. Why is he free in the box? Because he's hit them with a double movement. He's fake. If you look at the bigger picture, he's fake to go to the back post, then come off short. As a defender, you're not going to see both movements, but you'll likely see the first, and that's what you wrecked from. And even, you know, as we look at the Mahrez goal, which was the volley, if the keeper saves it, you see who was there? Yeah,
Haaland.
It's literally him, but he wasn't there as the cross was coming in, but he ends up there when he knows that the moment's coming. Like, he's got such a sense of, you know, where the most dangerous position can be in the side. And he seems to find it, and yeah, even the times when he's not scoring, you can see that he would have been if someone else did just put the ball in the net.
I think if Pep wanted, you know, when you talk about sort of City at the best of being perfect, it was for Haaland to come in and the team to still continue scoring goals from all the different areas, and him also scoring, and that's sort of perfect City. And that's what we got. We got him, you know, getting on the score sheet, and then you got the others still chipping in with goals. We just saw the clip earlier, Rodri, you know, setting up, giving an assist with the cross there, or the diagonal sort of pass for the goal. But I think this is what sort of, you know, Pep wants in terms of perfect City. A striker getting goals that when he's getting opportunities, but also all the other players contributing in terms of getting goals. So I think that's just a frightening thing to try to defend if you're the opposition.
You know what I'm looking at there as well? I'm looking at Scott Carson, who I played with under 21s, and I think Scott's old enough to be his father. Like that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I'm thinking, because he's alongside Cole, and he's not. I think he might be a year older than Cole. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe a year. That's it. Possibly 2. But this is, one of the brightest prospects in all of world football.
And there he is. He's training with our Scott Carson. He'll be looking after him.
Ah, oh, he's a good lad, Scott.
He's a good lad. He is.
Has been for 20 years.
Yeah. And of course, I matched my outfit with them today as well. Realised I love this black training top that they've got on. Another man to mention as well, Shaun, obviously Kevin De Bruyne. We all know how phenomenal he is, but this season he seems to be even better. So 9 Premier League games, 9 assists so far. He's 5 assists off 100 in the Premier League. He obviously currently holds the record for the most assists in a Premier League season with Thierry Henry at 20. He's on 9 already. Do you think he's going to smash that this year?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he's got more options to aim for in front of goal, and now he's got the talisman that if he gives him 3 clear-cut chances, the chances are on a good day he's going to score all 3 of those things. So for me, he's definitely in the run to beat his old record. But I think at the same time, this is the first time I'd say in a year and a half that he's had the chance to actually have a proper full pre-season, actually hit the ground running and stay fit. And I think that sums up and leads to why he is playing the way he's playing now, because we've not seen him with really any niggles. We ain't seen him pull up with anything. So he seems to be around about as close as you can get to 100%. And if you get to 100% of Kevin De Bruyne.
That's a huge problem, yeah.
So at the minute, it's looking great for him, and I'm delighted for him.
Yeah, I think we all are. When the Haaland signing rumours were coming, Shaun, I think for most of us, we immediately thought about that link-up. We immediately thought, ooh, Kevin De Bruyne is going to like this.
Yes, and he is. He's loving it. But at the same time, I mean, I think one of the clips we saw earlier was De Bruyne driving forward. He had Haaland on his right, and he had Foden on his left. And so, Haaland coming has also been even sort of beneficial for De Bruyne, not even directly for Haaland, but for other players, because, again, he's driving there. He goes, there you go, Foden, you have that one. Initially, when I saw it live, I thought, you got Haaland on your right, I'm making the wrong decision watching it. He's making the right decision in live time. I mean, this is the cleverness of him as a player. He doesn't get those situations wrong in terms of choosing the wrong pass. He's, 9 times out of 10, he's selecting the right pass and the right weight. It's a joy watching him. It really is, and I just watch him, the way to pass, and it's just pure quality.
So 4-0 victory against Southampton. In terms of the league and competition now, Shaun, we are starting to get a bit of an idea now. We are 9 games in the Premier League for us.
Yep.
Who do you think are going to be our nearest competitors? Obviously, Arsenal still above us in the league. Are they Arsenal? Are they the ones that we're going to have to beat?
Yeah, I'd say so at the minute. I'd definitely say that. I don't think Potter's got Chelsea exactly how he wants them yet, but in respects of that, they seem to have come a very long way in a short space of time, because I touted them not to even finish in the top 4 under Tuchel before he gets the sack. So I'm seeing a change in them, especially going forward and attacking. I think, personally, I don't know if you lot are going to agree with me or not, I don't even think Liverpool's going to make Champions League. And at this moment, it'd be lucky if they make Europa. To be honest with you, that's just my personal opinion.
That's a big call, right?
That's just my personal opinion.
You heard it here first, folks.
But I think Spurs are ones to worry about.
Okay.
Because they don't play pretty football. They don't care whether they have the ball or not. And they're happy to just sit there, park the bus, and just wait for that one mistake. I think they did it against Brighton. They do it against City all the time. And so I think that just that resilient. In the big games, they seem to defend even better and concede less goals. So I feel like they may sneak in there.
Okay, what do you guys think?
Spurs. When I think of Spurs and the way they play, again, they don't have to play attractive football. I think they'll get more wins by playing the way they do. So I think they could be one of those that sneak in terms of being challengers. Arsenal, for me, have always had this slip up, and I know that Arteta's doing a magnificent job, and that they look like a second City. you know, and we've learned them some players. I think Pep's done the old one, give himself a challenge, innit? Give himself some players.
You said that was
He's been reading that tweet, hasn't he? He's been reading that tweet.
Shout out to Steve. You've gone viral, my friend. Shout out to Steve, mate, on the show.
Yeah, our Stephen McInerney, who's one of our wonderful guests that comes on, wrote a tweet at the weekend which has gone viral. That
it's everywhere. I can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it, man.
Goat's quoting it now.
Yeah. That is the ultimate. Goats is quoting it.
Hey, I've quoted it. But yeah, I think Arsenal got a slip up in them somewhere. I just feel that, for me, that's what I feel with Arsenal. But again, I think it'll be Arsenal, Spurs, and City in terms of who would take us to the end.
Producer Daryl thinks that somebody in this shot looks like Jurgen Klopp. Where, producer Daryl? Where?
He can't be talking about it.
Does anybody think the man with a beard
his expression, I would say, is a kind of similar.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say the actual look in general.
Exactly
Producer Daryl needs to focus in on his work and not be looking in the crowd like
say
that.
Say that again, Nedum. Tell him again.
Daryl, focus. Focus on your work, my friend. In terms of the league, lo and behold, Daryl's actually an Arsenal fan as well. So he's obviously very, very happy. You know what I mean? Sorry, he's an Arsenal fan. City worker, Arsenal fan. But you've got to give Arsenal a lot of credit because City are unbeaten at this point in the season through 9 games, but they're not top. That's very, very impressive from Arsenal. You know, it's not like they're drawing games. Like they've lost that one game, you know, down the road and whatever, but they've won 8 games. That's very, very impressive. And I'm not going to say anything about the L word like he did to try and get clips up and then just enter the social media verse and then come back to haunt you. So I won't mention the L word, that team. But I don't fear Spurs as much for a title because of their style of play, because I think they can come unstuck by missing 1 or 2 people. Yeah. Whereas I think for Arsenal, I think their level of performance is exciting. And I think for the way they've started, they need to have not just a blip, they need to have like a bad month. Yeah. You know what I mean? And as far as the head-to-head goes, you want to beat Arsenal. Arsenal want to beat City. But I don't think that's how you end up winning the league. I think Arsenal are up there because of the fact that this year they're beating teams who they're expected to beat. Whereas go back a year, they lost the first 3 games of the season to Brentford, whoever. And, you know, for sides who are going to win it, like City and the other team that tends to be in title races, they finish on 90-something points, not because they beat the top 4 teams like over and over and over. They do it because they beat everybody else all the time. Yeah. And I think that's the skill of winning the Premier League.
So how does that fit in then with Arsenal getting beaten by United? Obviously, they were on somewhat of a resurgence, but still fairly poor. I mean, in that game, Arsenal were probably better, but didn't come through with a result.
How does it fit in terms of how Arsenal are? Yeah, there'll be a level of disappointment, but I think they found positives from the performance, and since then they've won all those games again. Like I'm saying, they're not City in 9 games unbeaten, and it's with 7 wins. That's really impressive. Arsenal have won more games than City. That deserves a ton of credit, and in that time
City have lost less games than Arsenal.
Well, this is true, but City are in second. And I think, like, when we talk, it's a weird one because this is like the paradox of like Arsenal fans. They want respect, then you give it to them and say, no, don't talk about us too much. Don't jinx us. You know what I mean? Like, you can't win. Isn't that right, Daryl? But like, they're doing very, very well. So yeah, but I think City are the best side. But I think they'll get there in the end.
Now, as you can see, our guests in the studio, they always get on really well. We always have a good time. And if you'd have seen some of the training shots from this week as well, you would have seen that our squad get on very, very well as well. I don't know if you've seen any of the clips from open training yesterday. Have you seen them?
No,
you're going to love this. I had to double take originally when I saw it on social media. I thought, what are they doing? I mean, if you could tell me what they're doing, that'd be great. But essentially, they're just having a good time, I think. They genuinely seem to really like each other's company.
Yeah, that definitely does help. You know, there's sometimes where you're going into training and you're thinking, I hope it gets cancelled as you're just outside the door. But I think for them, you know, they know this. They've been through this before, attempting to win a Champions League. Lots of good people, good players, great setup, great infrastructure, and as usual, the sun is shining in Manchester. So, you know, why would you be unhappy?
Now, what's this? Can anybody tell me? Watch this.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You got to pair up.
Yeah,
It shouts the number, and you've got to get in that amount of number in that group.
Yeah. So say like you're going round in a circle, it's 20 players, and then they shout twos. So then you've got to get in twos, or they shout threes, or they shout fours. So in that, they've made that one bigger. So now you sell out some of your teammates to go and join another group. Exactly.
Is that what we just saw there?
Yeah, that's what just
happened. Yes.
The mutiny, yeah. But you know, this is how it goes.
That's the banter.
Yeah, it's good fun to be fair.
I love the seriousness. So this is the game where someone shouts a number and they've just got to get into a group of 5, and look at how serious they're taking it. Oh my goodness, they're fuming. The ones that haven't won are fuming.
Yeah, because no one wants to lose.
Yeah.
Look, Riyad's fuming, look.
Normally a little forfeit, press-ups or something like that.
What's that then? Is that the forfeit?
That is another game they've got to pick the quickest cone up. But I've never done that one, but it's a reaction test.
Never really had a table more cones in that logic, but yeah.
So how important is this for a
you know
successful
what?
team?
It's not only good for the open session for the fans, so the fans can see like how the characteristics of the players. It's good as well because it's a different side for the players. It's not always serious. It's a little switch off where you can laugh and you can smile and you can have a crack while you're meant to be training at the same time. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
You also find players that are switched on because it's times when we play these sort of games and you just know you're not losing. You know, if they're shouting a colour, for instance, it may be yellow or green, and they shout a colour, it's no way you're losing. You just get it every time because you're switched on, you're just sharp on that morning.
Yeah.
I really want to play this now, by the way, against you two.
You be careful what
like
you wish
us
for.
two versus you two.
No.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you say threes, that's the issue.
Okay,
That's the issue.
don't make me sound my own.
That's the issue.
What a team, come on. How is that translated in your careers then? When you've been playing in a team that's been doing particularly well, have you had that sort of camaraderie?
Yeah, to be fair, like realistically, not every team does well, but you can still have those moments, and I think that's what you need because when things aren't going well, you need to be able to pull together. You know, and if you are fractured, then you can't really do those moments because some people just won't take it, won't like enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? But I think the way that squads and stuff are made up these days, you can find moments like that. And, you know, there's a misconception every day. People go to training, they cover 6 kilometres and it has to be this, it's tactical, it's this, that and the other. And some managers are like that, as we both know. But...
Oh, do name names then. You're looking at each other.
It's not the day.
It's not the day for that. It's not the day for that. But those little things there, like the players have come in and they're having fun. Yeah. It's a reminder that it's a game. And there are times you need to be serious, but that's not all the time. And when you see that, that's one of the best teams in the history of football, just having a dance around with cones. So why would other people not decide that maybe they can take the edge off a little bit? Because you're humans at the end of the day, aren't you?
Who are the best people, the people in the changing rooms that would pick the atmosphere up, that were the centre of the atmosphere, that were the ones that would pull you all together?
See, that's where I think it kind of goes back to what Nedum says. Like, if you're in a good team and you're winning, it's a collective thing because you're in a good space. The tough part is when you're not winning and things ain't going too well. Yeah. Then it can either go clicky or then you can have a group that pull together and everybody else kind of just follows. So it kind of just depends on the team. But that's something I think that City's done this whole 10 years as when they've signed players. They sign players that are always going to pull together as a team rather than pull away and create their own little circle. They always swinging in the right direction and it leads to what the success that they have now.
Well, if we're looking at that, judging them based on the open training session, then tonight's game should be very fun.
For sure, and the person we forgot about is Les Chapman, who was there for all three of us and was there for some of these players as well. You can get a lot of joy from a kit man.
He was massive. He was very important.
It was
very important.
So we are less than 10 minutes away from kick-off in tonight's game against Copenhagen. I'd love to get some of your final thoughts. We've had a laugh, we've had a good chat, but the serious business is back. Nedum, what sort of game are you expecting this evening?
I'm expecting Copenhagen to be more on the front foot, but then City, they might weather a bit of pressure, but as soon as they get in their groove, then I think it's going to end up the way that it kind of did last week. But I'm not going to do a prediction until Shaun goes gives his respectful number. And then I decide the over or under from that point. So please, Shaun, please lead the way on this respectful scoreline.
Well, you know, we're away, so I'm going to go respectful 4-0.
I got to take the under. I'm gonna be actually respectful and go for a 3-1. The 1 is the respect for the crowd to celebrate something.
Are you going to be disrespectful?
Yeah, I'm going to go disrespectful 5. I have to keep it alive for the goals, don't I?
That's it.
What sort of game are you expecting, Shaun?
I'm hoping it's going to be end-to-end because, like I said, I feel like Copenhagen should want to go for it because at the end of the day, it's a chance of them getting carried into the Europa League, or just not having nothing to play for. So I'm hoping they go for it. But for me, I'm expecting City, like I said the last game, City are just going to dominate and hopefully create as many chances as they did last time and get me that 5.
Come the end of the game today, Shaun, will we have qualified? Will we be in the knockout stages?
I think that's an easy yes. I think City will dominate the ball. They'll want to be on the front foot and press and make a game of it, but I think we'll control the game, control the tempo. And in the end, I think it'll be comfortable, and they'll witness, I think, another great performance by City. But again, I think they'll be up for it. But I just think we're just too much for them.
And Nedum, I've got to apologise. We haven't talked in depth about that goal that we mentioned right at the start of the show.
Yeah.
And now it's too late. We've got to go.
Yes, no.
Threes.
OK, so now we are less than 7 or 8 minutes away from kick-off today. I'm going to be in so much trouble with him now. We're going to hand you over now to the wonderful Alistair Mann, and he is with Michael Brown. They will be your commentary team for tonight. To get full match commentary, you need to get yourself onto the City app now. Get that downloaded. The best place to get your commentary. I am in so much trouble. I am going to go to hide and watch this game. We'll be back with you at half-time for immediate analysis of everything that happens in the first 45 minutes.
Well, a warm welcome to the Parken Stadium in Copenhagen. The locals are, to say the very least, extremely excited.